The planet Velner 7 was once lush, but the war had turned it into a graveyard of smoldering forests and shattered cities. For decades, humanity fought to colonize the world, only to encounter the Kaelith, an ancient race of dragon-like creatures that called the planet home. Towering, armored beasts with obsidian scales and eyes that burned like molten gold, they were deadly and intelligent, more so than humans had ever realized. During the final siege, Sergeant Ethan Cross found himself deep in the ruined caverns of Velner's mountain ranges. His platoon had been wiped out, and he stumbled upon the wounded Kaelith warlord, Xyraax, the deadliest of their kind. Stories of Xyraax's devastation haunted every soldier. The creature was curled on the cold stone floor, breathing raggedly, one of its massive wings torn and its body riddled with plasma burns. Ethan raised his weapon to end it, but something in the dragon's golden eyes stopped him. It wasn't rage or hatred, but pain, and perhaps even dignity. "You're a monster," Ethan muttered. "You've killed thousands." Still, his finger hovered on the trigger. "I have spared none," Xyraax rasped, its voice low, vibrating the earth itself. "But you are different." Ethan hesitated, then lowered his rifle. "I'm not like the others," he said. "Maybe this war ends when someone stops killing." The soldier turned and left the warlord alive. He never spoke of it. The war ended shortly after, and the Kaelith vanished from human colonies, retreating into their caverns and myths. Years later, Earth, 19 years after the war, Sergeant Ethan Cross never told his family about Velner 7. To his daughter, Lyra, he was simply a loving father, retired, stern but kind, a mechanic who worked long hours in his garage. Lyra was 16 now, bright and curious, with dreams of joining the planetary corps like her father. One day, Lyra decided to hike the wooded ridge behind their home, a wild, untamed place she adored. She'd heard the stories of dangerous wildlife, but she was bold and full of the same courage that had once carried her father through the war. The sun was sinking below the horizon when she stumbled into the clearing and froze. There, resting in a sunlit hollow, was a dragon. Its scales shimmered dark as night, with a faint glow of amber veins beneath the surface. Its wings stretched like shadows over the earth, and its golden eyes turned to meet hers. Lyra wanted to run, but the creature didn't move. It didn't growl or roar. Instead, it studied her curiously. "I won't hurt you," she whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. "Are you real?" The dragon's voice rumbled like thunder as it answered. "You are your father's child." Lyra staggered back. "You know my father?" The dragon rose, its massive frame unfolding with surprising grace. "I know him well. He spared my life long ago when he had every reason not to. Few beings, human or Kaelith, would show such mercy." The name came to Lyra as if from a dream. "Xyraax, you're Xyraax." The dragon inclined its head. "I owe your father a debt, a life for a life. It is a debt I intend to repay." Lyra took a step closer. "But he never told me. He said the war was just survival." "For him, perhaps it was," Xyraax said softly. "But to me, it was a lesson." The rescue. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the forest. Lyra turned to see a grellhound, a mutant predator with rows of jagged teeth, stalking from the shadows. Then another appeared, and another. She realized with horror that the pack had been circling her. Lyra stumbled back as the lead grellhound lunged. But before it reached her, a black blur intercepted it. Xyraax moved like living lightning, his massive jaws snapping around the creature and hurling it away. He roared, a sound that shook the trees and sent the remaining grellhounds scurrying into the dark. Lyra gasped as the dragon turned back toward her, golden eyes soft once again. "You are safe," Xyraax said. Her legs trembled. "You saved me." "I gave my word," the dragon replied. "Tell your father that the debt is paid." Lyra hesitated. "Why don't you tell him yourself?" "I will not intrude upon his peace," Xyraax said quietly. "But know this, you, Lyra Cross, are the future. Your compassion and courage will determine how our two species exist in this universe. I hope you choose wisely." The dragon spread its wings. For a moment, its vast shadow covered her completely as it rose into the air, glowing like a living constellation. Lyra watched in awe as the creature vanished into the sky, leaving her alone in the clearing, her heart racing. The truth revealed. That evening, Lyra burst into her father's garage. "Dad, I saw him. I saw Xyraax." Ethan dropped his wrench, his face paling. "What did you say?" "The dragon. He said you saved him, that you spared his life on Velner 7. Ethan sank onto the bench, silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. "I thought leaving that war behind would keep you safe from it. I spared Xyraax because I saw more than a monster that day. I saw something worth saving." "Dad," Lyra whispered, "you didn't just save him. You saved me. Today." Ethan looked up sharply. Lyra smiled faintly. "Xyraax protected me, Dad. He kept his word. He said the debt is paid." Tears glistened in Ethan's eyes as he realized the weight of his past choice. "Sometimes mercy comes back to us in ways we can't imagine," he said softly, pulling Lyra into a hug. "I'm glad I didn't pull that trigger." And somewhere, far above Earth, a lone dragon soared through the night skies, content that the lesson of mercy had been learned and passed on to the next generation.